Caleb walked alone across the dry plain, his boots pressing into cracked red soil that had not seen real rain in many years. The sun of this world was pale but cruel, pulling moisture from skin and breath alike. Every step reminded him how far he was from Earth. Still, his pace did not slow. He had crossed worse land before on worlds where humans were told they did not belong. He carried only what he needed: a light pack, a survival blade, a small translator unit on his chest, and one metal canteen hanging at his side. This land belonged to the Karun herd. Everyone in this sector knew their name. They were tall, horned beings with thick hides and eyes that reflected light like polished stone. They lived in groups called herds, and water was their law, their wealth, and their religion. To steal water from them was worse than murder. To waste it was unthinkable. Caleb knew this. He had read the reports. He had listened to the warnings. But the human council had still sent him, not as a soldier, not as a threat, as a messenger. A human settlement on the far side of Karun space was failing. Their water processors were breaking down, and supply ships could not pass through herd territory without being attacked. The council needed a path, and they believed a single human, unarmed and calm, had a better chance than a fleet. Caleb adjusted the strap of his pack and kept walking. He felt them before he saw them, a vibration in the ground, heavy steps, many of them. He stopped and slowly raised his hands away from his body, showing empty palms. The wind carried dust across the plain as tall shapes emerged from the haze. 5 warriors formed a wide circle around him, their hooves digging into the soil. Each carried a long energy spear, humming softly. At their center stood one larger than the rest. She was taller than Caleb by half a head, her horns long and curved back along her skull. Her armor was worn but well kept, marked with symbols of rank and battle. Her eyes locked onto him, sharp and unreadable. This was not a scout, this was a herd champion. Caleb swallowed, then stood straight. The translator hummed to life as she spoke, her voice deep and steady. "Human, you walk on herd land." "Yes," Caleb said. His voice was calm, though his throat was already dry. "I do so openly." "You carry water," she said, her gaze flicking to the canteen. "I do." A low murmur passed through the other warriors. Their grips tightened on their spears. The champion stepped closer. "Water here is owned by the herd, all water, even what falls from the sky." Caleb nodded. "I understand." "Then you know the law," she said. "Outsiders may pass only if they surrender all water. The herd will decide if you live." "And if I refuse?" Caleb asked. Her eyes hardened. "Then you are prey." The wind howled softly between them. Caleb felt the sun on his neck, the weight of the moment pressing down. This was where many missions ended, with fear, with sudden violence. He reached slowly for his canteen. Several spears lifted instantly, energy fields brightening. Caleb did not flinch. He unhooked the canteen and held it out toward the champion. "This is all the water I carry," he said. "I offer it." The champion did not take it. She stared at the container, then at him. "Trick," she said flatly. "Humans deceive." "No trick," Caleb replied. "If you want it, it's yours." Still, she did not move. Among the Karun, poison was a known tactic. Outsiders sometimes offered tainted water to weaken herd warriors. Trust was rare. Survival depended on suspicion. The silence stretched. Caleb felt his lips crack. Finally, the champion spoke again. "If it is safe," she said, "you drink first." Caleb paused for half a second, then he shrugged. "Suit yourself." Before anyone could react, he lifted the canteen, twisted the seal, and drank. Cool water touched his tongue. He took a long pull, swallowing deeply, then another, and another. Gasps rippled through the herd. The champion's eyes widened. One of the younger warriors took an unsteady step forward. Caleb lowered the canteen, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and sighed softly. "Clean," he said. "No poison." Then, without ceremony, he held the canteen out again. The champion stared at him as if he had just done something impossible. "You consumed herd water," she said slowly, "without permission." Yes. And you wasted it, she added, disbelief heavy in her voice. Caleb glanced at the canteen. It was now less than half full. I needed a drink. The silence that followed was not angry. It was stunned. Among the Karun, water was measured in drops. Rituals governed every sip. Warriors trained themselves to endure thirst as a sign of discipline. To drink freely without fear was seen as madness or absolute confidence. The champion stepped closer, towering over him. You should fear, she said. You stand surrounded. Caleb met her gaze. I know. Then why drink? He hesitated, searching for words simple enough to cross cultures. Because if I show fear, nothing changes. And because thirst doesn't go away just because someone is watching. The translator struggled, then delivered the meaning. The champion tilted her head slightly. You believe survival is not obedience. I believe survival is preparation, Caleb said, and choice. She looked at the canteen again, then finally took it from his hand. Her fingers were large, clawed, but careful. She lifted it, sniffed, then took a single, measured sip. Her eyes flicked back to him. Clean, she confirmed. She sealed the canteen and handed it back. Caleb blinked. You don't want it? No, she said. You cross the land with courage. That earns questioning, not death. Around them, the other warriors shifted uneasily. This was not how encounters ended. The champion turned and began to walk. Follow, she said. Caleb did not argue. They moved across the plain together, the herd forming a loose escort. No weapons touched him, but he felt their presence at every step. The sun climbed higher. His throat dried again, but he did not drink. After some time, the champion spoke without turning. You drank knowing it might mean death. Yes. Why? Caleb considered. On my world, we learned early that waiting for permission to survive is a good way to die. She slowed, then stopped. She turned fully to face him. You are not weak, she said, but you are small. He smiled faintly. We hear that a lot. They continued. As the day wore on, the heat grew harsher. The Karun warriors showed little sign of strain, but Caleb's steps grew heavier. Sweat soaked his shirt. His breathing deepened. Still, he kept moving. The champion noticed. You ration poorly, she said. I ration constantly, Caleb replied. My body just complains louder. She made a sound that might have been amusement. When the ground began to tremble again, Caleb tensed. This time the vibration was uneven, wild. The champion's posture changed instantly. Storm beasts, she said, drawn by movement. From the distance, massive shapes emerged, creatures of bone and muscle, driven mad by thirst and heat. They charged without thought. The herd formed a defensive line, spears glowing bright. Caleb did not run. He dropped to one knee and activated a small device from his pack. It emitted a low-frequency pulse that rippled across the ground. The beasts faltered, confused. Then they turned and fled. The warriors stared. What was that? The champion demanded. A deterrent, Caleb said. Non-lethal. Humans don't like unnecessary fights. She studied him anew. They reached a rise overlooking the herd's outer camps. Water towers gleamed in the distance like treasure beyond price. The champion stopped. You will wait here, she said. The elders will decide your fate. Caleb nodded. Fair. As the herd withdrew a short distance, leaving him under watch, he sat on a rock and stared at the horizon. His mouth was dry, his body ached, but his eyes were steady. The champion lingered, watching him. You risk much for passage, she said quietly. Yes. For others, she guessed. Caleb nodded once. Always, she said nothing more. But for the first time, she did not look at him as prey. She looked at him as something unfamiliar, a human. The sun moved slowly toward the west, but the heat did not fade. Caleb remained seated on the rock where the Karun warriors had left him. Two guards stood at a distance, their spears lowered but ready. They did not speak to him. They did not need to. Their presence alone was a warning. Caleb focused on his breathing, slow in, slow out. He had learned long ago that panic wasted water faster than heat ever could. His lips were dry again, and his tongue felt thick, but he did not reach for the canteen. Not yet. Across the plain, the herd's camp spread wide. Tall stone structures circled the water towers, their surfaces carved with symbols that told old stories of drought and survival. Even from this distance, Caleb could see how carefully everything was arranged. Nothing was random. Nothing was wasted. The champion returned alone. Her steps were steady, but her eyes were troubled. "The elders debate," she said. "Some demand your death for drinking without consent." Caleb nodded. "That was always a risk." "Others say your act was a test," she continued. "A challenge." "Was it?" he asked. She studied him for a long moment. "I do not know," she gestured for him to stand. "You will come closer. You will answer questions." He rose slowly, his legs stiff. The guards closed in, forming a moving barrier as they guided him toward the heart of the camp. Karun of all ages watched in silence. Young ones clung to elders. Warriors stared openly. Some showed anger. Others showed something closer to wonder. At the edge of the central circle, Caleb was told to stop. A group of elders waited there, their horns marked with rings of age and honor. Their eyes were sharp despite their years. One stepped forward. "Human," the elder said, "you crossed sacred land, you drank sacred water." "Yes," Caleb replied simply. "Why?" the elder demanded. Caleb took a breath. "Because I was thirsty, and because fear does not keep people alive, planning does." A ripple of discomfort moved through the circle. "You speak lightly of survival," another elder said. "We have endured droughts that erased entire herds." "I don't doubt that," Caleb said. "Humans lost cities the same way. Oceans dried, crops failed, we learned or we died." The first elder leaned closer. "You claim knowledge of water, yet you waste it." "I use it," Caleb said. "Waste is when it does nothing." The words unsettled them. The champion watched from the side, silent. "You carry strange tools," an elder said. "You frighten storm beasts without killing them." "Yes." "Why spare them?" "Because killing costs energy," Caleb replied, "and anger attracts more danger." The elders exchanged looks. "You are allowed to live," the first elder said at last, "for now, but you will remain under watch." Caleb bowed his head slightly. "That's more than fair." He was led to a shaded area near the outer structures and given a place to sit. No water was offered, no food. This was a test. Time passed slowly. As the sun dipped lower, the heat eased just enough for Caleb to move again. He checked his pack quietly, making sure nothing had been disturbed. The guards watched closely but did not interfere. The champion returned again later, carrying a small container. "You will drink," she said. Caleb looked up in surprise. "Is that an order?" "No," she replied. "It is curiosity." She placed the container between them. Inside was a thin measure of water, barely enough to wet the tongue. Caleb did not reach for it immediately. "You may," she said. He lifted it and took a careful sip. Then he closed it and set it aside. "You did not finish," she noted. "I don't need to," he said. "Not yet." She studied him again. "You control thirst." "I work with it," Caleb said. "Same as pain, same as fear." She sat across from him, lowering herself to the ground. This alone was unusual. A champion did not sit with a possible enemy. "Your people," she said, "do they all live this way?" "Some do," Caleb answered. "Some don't. We're not perfect." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Yet you survive." "Most of the time," he said. As night fell, the temperature dropped sharply. Caleb pulled on an extra layer from his pack. The Karun needed none. Their bodies were built for extremes. The camp grew quieter. Fires burned low. Guards rotated. Caleb slept lightly. He woke to raised voices. A disturbance moved through the camp like a wave. Caleb sat up, alert. The champion was already moving, barking sharp commands. From beyond the stone structures came the sound of hooves. Many hooves. A rival herd. They approached fast, aggressive, their banners raised high. This was not a peaceful visit. The elders gathered quickly, tension thick in the air. "They come for water," the champion said grimly. "And for you," Caleb stood, "me." "They saw you drink," she said. "They claim you insulted all herds. They demand punishment." The rival herd entered the circle, their leader tall and scarred, his horns etched with marks of conquest. "You shelter the water thief," he declared. "Give him to us." The elders hesitated. Caleb stepped forward before they could speak. "I am here by choice," he said clearly. "If you have an issue, speak to me." A hiss of shock followed. The rival leader laughed. "Brave prey," he said. "You will beg before the end." Caleb shook his head. "I won't." "You drank what was not yours," the leader said. "That crime demands blood." Caleb looked at the surrounding warriors. "If I die," he said calmly, "nothing changes. Your water stays scarce. Your herds keep fighting." The leader sneered. "You think your words matter?" "They already do," Caleb said, "or you wouldn't be here." The champion stiffened. The rival leader advanced. "Enough, kill him." The moment stretched. Then the ground shook, not from hooves, from below. A deep rumble rolled through the camp. Stone cracked. Water towers trembled. "Sink tremor," someone shouted. The earth gave way near the outer structures. A section of ground collapsed inward, swallowing equipment and sending water sloshing dangerously close to spilling. Panic erupted. Caleb reacted instantly. "Clear the area," he shouted. "Get weight off the edges." No one listened. He ran. Ignoring the guards, he sprinted toward the collapse zone, pulling devices from his pack as he went. He planted stabilizers into the ground, activating them one by one. Energy fields spread, locking loose earth in place. The tremor slowed. Water stopped spilling. The rival herd froze, stunned. Caleb staggered back, breathing hard. His vision blurred, but he stayed upright. The champion rushed to his side, steadying him. "You risked yourself," she said sharply. "Yes," he replied between breaths. "That tower feeds hundreds." The elders stared at the stabilized ground in disbelief. "You saved our water," one whispered. Caleb nodded. "That's why I'm here." The rival leader took a step back. His confidence cracked. "You protect what you steal," he said weakly. "I protect what people need," Caleb answered. Silence fell. The elders straightened. "This human is under herd protection," the first elder declared. "Any who challenge him challenge us." The rival herd hesitated, then withdrew, their banners lowered. When they were gone, the camp exhaled. Caleb finally sat exhausted. The champion knelt beside him. "You did not have to do that." "Yes," he said quietly. "I did." She looked at him with something new in her eyes, respect. That night water was brought to him without ceremony. And no one called it waste. Morning came softly, without alarm or ceremony. The pale sun rose over the Karun plains, touching stone and metal with thin light. The camp was quiet, but not tense anymore. Something had shifted during the night. Caleb woke to the sound of movement nearby. Not guards watching him closely, not warriors standing ready, just people working, repairing, carrying, living. A small container of water rested beside him, fuller than before. No one stood over it. No one watched to see how much he drank. He sat up slowly and took a careful sip, then another. He closed the container and set it down. Across the camp, the champion approached. Her armor was off now, replaced by simple cloth marked with herd symbols. Without weapons, she looked less like a threat and more like what she truly was, a protector. "The elders wish to speak with you," she said. Caleb nodded. "I figured they would." They walked together toward the central circle. This time, no guards closed in around him. No spears followed his steps. Karun of all ages watched, but their expressions were different, curious, thoughtful. Some even nodded. The elders waited where they had before, but their posture had changed. They no longer stood as judges. They stood as listeners. "You saved water that would have been lost," the first elder said. "You acted without command." "Yes," Caleb replied. "That's how humans work in emergencies." Another elder tilted his head. "Your devices stabilize ground. Can they do more?" "Yes," Caleb said. "Much more." The circle grew quiet. "We have fought over water for generations," the elder continued. "Herd against herd, blood for drops." Caleb did not interrupt. "You drink freely," the elder said, "yet you fear scarcity less than we do." Caleb thought for a moment. Because fear narrows choices, and water problems don't care about pride. A murmur moved through the elders. You came for passage, the first elder said, but you offer more. I offer solutions, Caleb replied, not ownership. That word mattered. The elders exchanged long looks. Show us, one said. Caleb exhaled slowly and reached into his pack. He removed a compact device, no larger than his palm, and set it on the ground. With a few taps, it expanded, unfolding into a small framework humming softly. This is a moisture recovery core, Caleb said. It pulls water from air, soil, even waste, slowly, safely. The champion crouched beside it, watching closely. Caleb activated it. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then condensation formed along the frame. Droplets gathered and fell into a small collection tray beneath. The elders leaned forward. That is not ritual, one whispered. It's engineering, Caleb said, built after humans nearly lost everything. How much can it produce? Another asked. Enough to sustain a family unit, Caleb said. Scaled versions can supply cities. Silence followed, heavy silence. This technology, the first elder said carefully, could change herds. Yes, Caleb said, or end them if used wrong. That earned their full attention. Explain, the elder demanded. Power changes balance, Caleb said. If one herd hoards this, war follows. Humans learned that lesson the hard way. The elders absorbed this. You would share this freely, one asked. Yes, Caleb said, with conditions. The champion straightened. What conditions? She asked. Cooperation, Caleb replied. Shared access, shared learning, no herd above another. The idea was dangerous, radical. The elders withdrew to speak among themselves. Their voices were low but intense. Caleb waited, standing quietly, his hands relaxed at his sides. The champion remained near him. You risk angering us, she said softly. I know, Caleb replied. But if I lie to keep peace, peace won't last. She studied him. You are stubborn, he smiled faintly. That's one word for it. The elders returned. We will test your claim, the first elder said. You will install one core near the dry basin. Caleb nodded. That's fair. They traveled together to the basin, a cracked depression where water once gathered centuries ago. The ground was dry and bitter with salt. Caleb worked methodically, ignoring the ache in his muscles. He placed stabilizers, activated filters, adjusted angles. The champion watched closely, asking questions. He answered all of them. When the system activated fully, the hum deepened. Hours passed. Then slowly darkened soil appeared. Gasps echoed as moisture seeped into the basin, shallow but real. Water, not enough for towers, not enough for dominance, but enough for proof. The elders stood in silence as the basin continued to darken. This does not steal, one elder said quietly. It restores, Caleb replied. Word spread fast. Other herds sent watchers. Some came angry, some came afraid. None left unchanged, but not all welcomed change. That night sabotage came. A group from the rival herd slipped into the basin, attempting to destroy the core. Their plan was simple: break what they could not control. They failed. The stabilizers triggered an alert. Caleb woke instantly and ran. He reached the basin as fighting broke out. Not deadly, controlled. The champion stood between the attackers and the device, her voice commanding. Enough, she roared. You will not turn hope into war. The rival leader stepped forward, snarling. This human weakens us. Caleb moved beside her. No, he said, fear weakens you, the leader scoffed. You think water makes peace. No, Caleb replied, choice does. He deactivated the core, gasps followed. You see, Caleb said, it obeys me, not you, not them. The rival herd hesitated. I will leave, Caleb continued. Take the knowledge with me, or I will stay and teach all of you together. The silence was unbearable. Finally, the rival leader lowered his head. Teach, he said bitterly. The decision spread like fire. In the days that followed, Caleb worked without rest. He trained Karun engineers. He shared schematics. He refused ownership, always. The champion stayed at his side. You could rule us, she said one evening. Caleb shook his head. Humans tried that once, didn't end well. She watched the basin shimmer under moonlight. What will your people gain? She asked. Passage, Caleb said, trust, and fewer dead children. That answer mattered. When the final agreement was sealed, the elders gathered once more. You will be remembered, the first elder said. Caleb smiled tiredly. I'd rather be forgotten and proven right. The champion stepped forward and extended her arm in the Karun sign of respect. You drank without fear, she said. You gave without demand. That is strength. Caleb returned the gesture, imperfect but sincere. As he prepared to leave, his canteen was returned to him full. This water is given, the elder said. Not taken. Caleb accepted it. He took one final drink before walking into the open plain. This time no one stopped him. And across the dry world, water began to return, not as a weapon but as a shared promise. Far away, human settlements would soon feel the change. Not because humans conquered, but because they endured, adapted, and chose cooperation when fear would have been easier. That was the human way.